in the cannabis industry have been around for quite a few years. I've been sharing it's been coming up on 7 this fall, which seems hard to believe. So a lifetime in the industry. And today we are talking about growers and telling grower stories and telling cultivation story. So I've got some interesting perspectives here on the panel. I'm going to jump just to get us started. I'm going to have each panelist just share a little bit of their own background and give us some context. So why don't we start on the end and work our way towards me, starting with Casey.
Sure, thank you so much. Thank you all for joining us today, Allison, Av, and the whole Grow Up team. My name's Casey Holtzman. I founded a company called Budtenders Association. We work with budtenders across Canada to help educate them on Cannabis 101, but also we connect them to brands in the recreational space. And alongside that, since 2018, we've really developed into since 2020, we've developed into a research platform as well to really help educate consumers and understand the plant a little bit better and work with cannabis professionals who are in the field day in, day out to really help everyone else in the industry understand how it's constantly changing.
Well, hello everybody. My name is Brady Sparrow. I work with BC Black. I do the product knowledge sessions, so I spend my days yelling at retailers over Zoom call, informing them about the beautiful cannabis that we bring to the market. I entered the cannabis space in the mid-90s as a young mother who was trying to find some joy but did not enjoy alcohol, needed a different route. And my husband always grew for us, and unfortunately we were busted in Edmonton in 1998. We fled those charges and we went to Vancouver with our then 2 children. We now have 10. And we grew all over the Lower Mainland, Surrey, Maple Ridge. Probably my favorite was Kerrisdale in Vancouver. Finished on the island and then went back to Edmonton and tried to go straight. We opened a sewing and quilting business, which we began in the front room of our house, grew to a retail location and managed to get ourselves up to about $250,000 in sales. And then we discovered the power of story. And we began using video and teaching to engage with an audience and build a community. And the next year we did 2.5 million in sales. And so when COVID hit our business, it pretty much wiped us off the map. But that gave us the opportunity to transition into the cannabis space. And now I spend my days very passionately helping growers tell their stories to the consumers of today.
Hi everyone, my name is Dominique Laverdure, so I will be representing the French community from Quebec. I'm a marketer. I've had a marketing agency now for 18 years, and 5 years ago I started a project with my brother and some friends. We became a licensed producer. It's been we had our license since March 2020, and I like to brag and say that we grow some of the best weed in Canada. Of course, Quebec is known for that, but we do have we've been very successful. For those who've heard Alex speak on the last panel, he's quite the master grower, and I'm very happy to be here today and share some of that knowledge with you guys. Thank you.
Hi everybody, my name is Dustin McLean. I am the head of cultivation and master grower for Parkland Flower. We're a micro cultivation LP in just outside of Edmonton in Alberta. Really, I've been growing for 28 years. Now I have a medical passion that we're going to be going with. My team is all female. There's a lot of progressive things Parkland Flower is doing, and I believe that's going to be part of the story we're going to be telling, as well as how awesome our product is. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, great. Thank you for those introductions. We do have mics for everybody, so can I just ask that we all shift the mics down so everybody gets one, and then we don't have to worry about sharing. Perfect. Awesome. Okay, so let's jump into it. We've got some questions for the group today. And again, the goal here being about telling growers stories and translating that all the way through the marketing material and the importance of that. So just off of the top, and anyone can kind of jump into this, but are grower stories being told today as part of the marketing narrative? Like, let's start there. Is this happening at all? And Dominique, I'm looking directly in your eyes, so why don't you go?
Yes, definitely. I mean, for us, I mean, Quebec is like probably the most restrictive province in terms of marketing. So the grower story is definitely key. We try to focus on what makes us unique. So we do marketing a lot. We tell the story about what makes our culture unique in Quebec, and we like to celebrate that. We like to share those stories and get people. So we don't have to talk about the product, but we talk about what makes Quebec growing so exceptional. We also like to talk about our staff, our employees, the new jobs we're creating, the impact we're doing in our communities. It's a new industry. There's great jobs that are being created. So we like to share those stories and highlight our employees as well. It's not always easy work conditions, so it's good to highlight all their dedication to the craft. And we also like to be involved in a discussion about social consciousness. We want to make sure that this industry is a good one. And I mean, there's a lot of positive and education that needs to be shared. So that's another story that could be told, and you can be out there with your marketing and get people to know your product without talking about your product, but just talking about the great things you're doing for the communities based on this new industry that's coming together and the jobs you're creating. And that's it.
Maybe Casey and Brady, from your perspective on the retail side, do you think that the grower stories are making it into the marketing material and into the hands of budtenders?
Yeah, I would say more and more now we're seeing it. It's been a struggle, and in order to differentiate now these days, it's definitely really important, and everyone's realizing that there needs to be some sort of essence behind the brand. And how do we communicate that to the consumer? Well, with the marketing restrictions, it's very difficult. So there's a need to get really creative. But one way is for budtenders to share the stories that they're learning about the different cultivators as well. So we're seeing it a lot, and that's part of the programs that we offer. It's a platform to help brands connect and tell their story and share their personal experiences and really just get a little bit more intimate with that relationship. So we're seeing it more and more, but not enough, and I don't think it's necessarily translating to the end consumer. There's no brand loyalty, which we can see. So a lot of work to be done, but we're on the right track, and I'm sure we'll get into it a little bit more, but the importance of telling that story is also something that we need to see, more brands being proactive on and investing in and understanding that themselves.
I really like that you said that, actually, because we spend a lot of our time at BC Black contacting retailers, trying to schedule PK sessions, because that's literally our goal, is just to endear our growers to the retailers so that they can, transmit that information to their consumers as well, because that's how we get loyal customers, is by making them fall in love with the people who's making their product. At least that's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really agree with what you're saying, and it's a struggle because some retailers, I shouldn't say a lot, but some don't have the budget to allow their budtenders to participate in those Zoom sessions or to take paid time to consume that information. So we struggle in that way as a processor that's trying to connect with the retailers, but we're all starting to offer like pre-recorded or that sort of option so that it can be digested in a easier manner, not live necessarily.
And so Brady, maybe building off of that, like where you've seen those stories successfully translate into trade marketing materials or into the retail level, like what's the positive impact on that? Like, can you think of any examples or have any anecdotes?
Well, like for us specifically at BC Black, that is literally our mission, is to keep the focus on the growers. Like we're not doing the work here. They are growing. They are the ones that took the risk to get here. So that's why we've always kept the focus on them. I'm sorry, what was the question that you asked us?
Just the positive impact, like where you've really seen that make an impact
Absolutely.
on a brand.
Yeah, so as I go through a PK session, I'm face to face with these budtenders, and then almost all of them, we interact on Instagram as well, a lot of us, like, because I try to connect with all of them on a personal level, and then I have them follow me on Instagram as Dopest Mama Ever, and then I see them talking about the flower, I see them enjoying it with their friends, and I see them sharing the stories that I told them in the PK session. And so yes, I do believe it's making an impact.
Dustin, what's your experience on this?
I think where it has to begin is, for us anyways, we're building our product and a story along with the product. So I want somebody to, while the story is absolutely fantastic, I remember last year at Grow Up, there was a session where one of the speakers said, nobody cares about your story. They just care about your product. Now, to an extent, she was right, but people do care about a story, that we're becoming more aware of those stories. So for Parkland, we're building an amazing product. We want our consumer to love the product and then fall in love with the story of how we made that product. Because in my opinion, and I do have a bit of a marketing background, you can have a story, but if your product isn't good, people aren't just going to keep coming back for a story. I mean, especially right now in economics, the way they're going, you have to have an awesome product. So for us, we're building that product, but building the story of, we were a small micro who was acquired. Now we have a staff, and my staff's all female. I'm a big proponent of women in weed. So I'm teaching all my staff the new ways of growing, so they can pass it on, and they can start working the grows, being the master growers, and move on to other companies or start their own. So that's the story we're going to tell. For myself, I lost my daughter in 2019 to the opioid epidemic. She was 24 years old and left behind a child. That child's father died 6 months later from the opioid crisis. I'll tell that story when this is done. So I mean, my side project's looking for strains with caryophyllene in them and some other things. That's my goal. That's my end goal in this. But for Parkland, and that'll be part of the story down the line. But right now, it's building that product so then people become invested in that story afterwards. That's how I feel. Yeah. And I do think there is value in telling the stories for sure. You're seeing on packaging now, like who it's grown by, where it's grown by, and that's awesome. We need to, I think, push the government and push the regulatory stuff on being allowed to tell more of the story quicker, I guess, more rapidly, because it's hard in a lot of provinces to do any kind of marketing to tell the story the proper way, where you can look and see liquor stores telling all kinds of stories and all kinds of fabrications. So it's very tough. And what I want to see, at least for us, our goal is make an awesome product, and then hopefully people become vested in the story that way. We do have a great story, and it'll be told as our products roll out. So,
I do agree. I think those are super great points, because it's marketing today is all about the storytelling, but it starts with having a good product. And it's also, there's a good product for every kind of different consumer, so you got to have a two-way discussion. It's not just about telling your story, but it's about being open to listening to what the consumer has to say and to adjust your product in function of that story. Yeah.
And Dominique, you had shared with us previously some of the examples. Like, I think if you wouldn't maybe mind sharing them, I think your female Quebec brand is a really cool example, and then just maybe a bit more detail on some of the other ways that you're communicating about your operation.
Definitely. It's in Quebec, it's very different. We cannot talk to the retailers, so we cannot influence at the store level. So we really work really hard on storytelling. So we created the brand Fleur de Lys. Our national emblem is called Fleur de Lys, and we call it Fleur de Lys, so we can highlight the feminine side behind it. And she's like an old lady. She's vintage. She likes to talk about her flowers. She likes to play in our garden. So we never talk about weed, we never talk about that product specifically, but she highlights everything that she loved about the Quebec culture, the best songs, the best food. And so we try to relate and highlight everything that Quebec is all about, and that culture. And so people get to know Lise, and people get to follow her. Even if we don't talk about cannabis, they start to fall in love with the character and that storytelling. And it's been very successful. And it starts with the staff. Like I said it before, but I mean, building a great product is one thing, and being kind to the people that work for you. Word of mouth marketing will remain the best marketing you could ever do, and if your staff is proud and happy to be working for your company, they are the best ambassadors. And we invite them, and we tell them, go into the store, and when you don't just buy a product, you talk about it, talk loud, say it, I'm buying this product because it's the best in the market, and spread the word, because there's nothing powerful like word of mouth. So those are some of the examples that
on the flip side, Brady, we were talking about how with some of the legacy growers in particular, it can actually be more difficult to get them to share their stories. Can you maybe walk us through that and expand on that?
Absolutely.
So last fall I had the opportunity to visit a series of farms. The first one was Smoker Farms, just outside Kelowna. And Jeff is a natural star. Like, he took to the camera like it had been in his face his whole life. And then we went to another farm, and this man was so shy. He had had to hide his grow from his ex-wife for the fear of her taking his children from him throughout the entire 90s and early 2000s. So everything about his experience was traumatic. He was not proud. He was scared. And to get him on camera was one of the biggest challenges I've ever had. But we did it. And today, he is profitable in his grow. And I like to think I had a little bit to do with that. Obviously, JVCC was the big player, but like, getting these people talking is a challenge because they're traumatized. And some of them just don't want to be on camera. So there's different ways that we can approach telling your story as well. It doesn't have to be, you know, a camera in your face following you around all the time. We can do different things, like showing you teaching somebody how to do something like Dustin is talking about. Or we can document processes. You like set up a camera on high speed and take down your harvest and show that whole process. It's cool as fuck, you guys. People want to see that shit. So there's different ways you can share your story without having to be an in-your-face star.
Yeah, and it could serve the industry overall. I mean, we're very proud that we got an R&D license, and we want to push that because, again, another great source of content that we can share, and it contributes to the industry as well.
Exactly. So there are challenges, but there's ways around it. So, I mean, if you know somebody, reach out. I'm always happy to help in any way I can.
I think some growers, we're our biggest critics. So when we see ourselves or we see our rooms, we see things right away.
That's so true.
We are our biggest critics, so it's hard for us sometimes to see ourselves or our grows. For me, I can, whenever any
You're not joking. I toured a facility the other day. She was apologizing for her garden. It was the most beautiful garden I'd ever seen. Yeah, like, you're hard on yourself. I know it.
It's because we, A, have a passion for the plants, and B, we want our plants to have, for myself, it's the cleanest facility, the best growing conditions possible. So if I even see a leaf, like when some of the girls are going to post on Instagram, being like, can you go back and clean, like, let's make sure, it's just constant, right? So for myself, I can see why some also have had to live, like in Alberta, you didn't want to know you were a grower. It's a very conservative country, and if people found out, even family, I have family that still doesn't talk to me to this day because of what I do, and some are just coming around now. Others are coming out of the closet saying, we were wondering for years what you were doing. Now, I was really your life. And now you've been acquired, your company's doing, like, so that's what, and for me now, it's not just about that, it's for also finding that straight down the line. That's my goal. But yeah, a lot of growers, there's trauma, like you were saying, there's a lot of trauma in growing. I've been robbed.
I've been undercover for so long.
I grew for some fairly mean people in the world at times, and I've seen some things. So a lot of us don't want to tell certain stories because it's just not part of the story we want to tell. So I get why you don't.
So we've heard a bunch of different examples. Casey, when you're working with the bud tenders, and I mean anyone can chime in on this. We'll start with Casey. What are the standout things that you find really resonate with bud tenders who are then going to the customers and relaying that information?
It definitely starts with the quality of the product for bud tenders, for sure. So as our fellow panelists said, that's a must-have. But then what they really would like is a connection, a reason to be able to speak. They have hundreds of products that they can talk to all day, every day, and nothing's sticking right now. The conversations are, high THC, low price, a lot of things that we're looking to move away from. But I think when we survey our membership, which we do quite often to understand how to best share those stories, get that education across to them, understand the challenges that they're having in communicating with consumers, and also just getting that information from the brands in the first place, because there wasn't a centralized location that bud tenders could get their information from. So they'd go on Reddit and look at reviews, and still today a lot of procurement managers and a lot of cannabis stores are basing their decisions off of Reddit. which is quite scary.
Yeah.
Because none of those individuals behind the reviews are necessarily verified or have,
Yeah.
you know, any expertise. So what budtenders are telling us is that it starts with the quality of the product, whatever category we're talking about, and then it's a connection with, and right now it's very much of a relationship that they have with the people behind the operation. So when they get to meet the grower and hear about the challenges, or the marketing manager and understand how the story was crafted and why, that's a big factor, I think. And then recommendations or reviews. So whatever it is that they're hearing from customers who are coming back, who may have had a particular experience with a product, or their colleagues. Product quality, hearsay, and connection with the people behind the brand, I think, are the three topics.
That's an excellent point. We keep saying at Vision Nature that our promise is that we make people feel great, no matter who we interact with on a daily basis, suppliers, staff, whatever it is. We've got to make people feel great, because we know at the end of the day it's going to have a huge impact on them.
Brady, anything to add to that from anything to build on that budtenders are really drawn to? It seems to really particularly resonate from the storytelling.
I think word of mouth is really, it seems to be a really big motivator for budtenders. So getting, it's a challenge for them, because a lot of them are barely making a living wage, so they can't even afford the product that they want to try. But word of mouth is really a big thing, and then just encouraging people to talk about it. I mean, it's so hard for them to connect with each other, but I do find Instagram to be a really powerful way for cannabis users to connect. That community is really growing. You're right, Reddit is a challenge, because you get somebody on there who maybe has a bit of a chip on their shoulder, and the review is not unbiased. So it's hard to find good information, and I just think connecting with budtenders is really valuable, as much as people can.
And getting your product into budtender hands and having an experience with the product is a way that they can compliantly speak about it, and help market as well. So even if you don't have the story there, just that experience, they have their own story now to tell. Wherever it was that they consumed that product, however it made them feel, whatever emotion came up, now they can share that with consumers, and that makes a sale.
Right, because it's their story too, right? Not just grower stories, but consumer stories of the grower products.
Yeah, we have people come for tours. We have budtender tours quite frequently. And we also, there's sessions where if we need it,